you so much for being here today. We're super excited to get to talk to you. I would love if you could introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Amy L Bernstein, and I call myself a writer who lets people think and makes them feel.
I love that. Could you tell us what your books are about?
Yes, so I have four novels. And in fact, it's really exciting because one of my books is going to be published tomorrow, actually. And I really write across different genres. So I have a mystery thriller out. I have a paranormal romance out that's sort of loaded with archaeology and time travel. And tomorrow I'm releasing a YA urban fantasy that's all about a human mermaid. So I really let my imagination wander quite a bit.
Love that. What inspired you to write your books?
For me, it always starts with a story, and I just will get an idea, and I kind of try and sit with it for a bit and see if it wants to stay or flee. And if it really just stays in my gut, sort of starts to grow, and I start imagining characters, and if I start naming characters, then I know it's something I really want to pursue. And every book's a little bit different, but that's generally how it starts.
I love that. When you're writing your book, who were you thinking of when it comes to who your book's for?
That's such an important question because I'm also a book coach and I help other people on their own writing journey. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is figuring out who your ideal reader is. It's something I've really had to work at because I think very often when you're writing, particularly early on in something new, you're really writing it for yourself. You're just trying to figure out what the story is. But if that story really develops and grows into a book and you begin to really, work on polishing a draft, you really do want to think about, well, you know, who wants to read this and how do I make sure that they keep turning the pages? So you want to find a way to really get that reader engaged in the main character story and their transformation and growth. And I do think about that a lot. And it also depends on the genre that I'm in. If I'm writing a mystery, I really want you to feel drawn into wanting to see that mystery solved. And if I'm writing a romance, I want to deliver you a really great happily ever after with people in love and so forth.
I love that. How long have you been writing?
Well, for me, it sort of depends. I guess the answer is it depends. I have been writing nonfiction for decades because I've been a journalist and an executive speechwriter, and I've done a lot of sort of corporate communications type work, and that's all on the nonfiction side. And then in fiction, I I really always wanted to write fiction. I was kind of afraid to start or to finish anything for a long time. And then somewhere around 2008, I just said to myself, you know what? It's time. And so I wrote and self-published a fairly short YA novel. And I really did it just to prove myself, to set myself that I could. And I kind of forgot about it. And then I went on to writing plays. And then I went back to writing novels probably in the last 5 or 6 years. Um, so that's what I said. It's been like fits and starts.
I love that. What made you really sit down and start to write your novels?
It really is that sense of, I mean, it takes a lot of self-discipline. You have to really be willing to stare down the blank page. But for me, if I get an idea that I just get excited about, um, I just start making notes or I start outlining or I start about thinking who's the main character. Even if I don't know yet everything that's going to happen to them, and I often don't. I just, you just have to start somewhere and I just push myself into it. It's sort of a leap of faith every time.
I love that. What is your schedule like when you're writing a book?
I'm all over the place. I read all the time about writers, famous writers who, they get up at 6 in the morning and they go to the writing shed and they'll work till lunchtime and whatever. It's like, nah, I don't do that. My best when I'm going well, for me, if I can get a couple of really productive hours in the morning and then maybe review in the afternoon and sort of make some changes, for me, that's a good day. I cannot I cannot work on a novel 9 to 5, so to speak. And I do read about writers who do that. And I'm in awe of that. I mean, my brain just can't keep at it for that long. And I'd rather produce quality pages than just quantity.
I love that. What do you need in your writing space to help you stay focused?
Well, I'm really lucky, and also by design, I work at the dining room table in my apartment, and I am surrounded by really big windows that let in a lot of light because that's really important for me. I need a lot of light I just need to feel that I'm part of the day, or that the outdoors is like I can just look out there and see it, because then I don't feel closed in. I guess after working in offices for so long without windows, I love the sort of freedom. So for me, it's just my laptop at the end of the dining room table, and like that's what I need. That's my place.
I love that. What is your favorite writing snack or drink?
My current obsession, I'm a salty person, not a sweet person, and I don't eat a lot between meals. But my obsession is these little mixed rice crackers that you can get from Trader Joe's, and they're sort of like different shapes and sizes, and they're just salty with a tiny bit of heat. And somewhere between like 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I just have to stop what I'm doing and go have some of those.
I love that. That's so awesome. What books do you enjoy reading?
Well, I mostly read what I guess we call literary fiction. And I just had a conversation this week with a bunch of writers about what is literary fiction? Like, how do we put this into words? And I always think of it as, it's not just plot driven. There might be a lot of sort of thought and reflection and playing with ideas in a literary novel, as well as, characters and plot. So it's a sort of a different balance, and that's what I just always gravitate to. The book I finished most recently was The Lincoln Highway by Amor Towles, who also wrote A Gentleman in Moscow. And for me, it's great storytelling, but it's still sort of thoughtful literary fiction. So I love that.
Are there any books or authors that inspired you to become a writer?
I would say there is no one author, but when I look back on my childhood, I mean, I was brought up to read a lot. My mom took us to the library all the time. So I think it just helps if you're a kid that you read a lot, because then you just become a reader and kind of a lifelong reader. And when I was a kid and reading Harriet the Spy and A Wrinkle in Time, like favorite books like that. Um, I don't know that there was no direct inspiration, but I think that one of the reasons I am able to write fiction is because I think it just got into my bones of how you do it. And I think that anyone who wants to write really needs to read.
I love that. That's so true. This kind of touches on what you just touched on with what books did you grow up reading and did you have an all-time favorite?
Yeah. And so the one I always go back to A Wrinkle in Time. I know I read it like 5, 6, 7 times. I think I made a point of reading it like every year for several years in a row. And I cried and saw it's like binging a series and then like binging it again or something. I just cried every time, even though I knew what was happening. The book just made such a huge impression on me. And I know that book has sequels by Madeline L'Engle. I don't remember if I even read the sequels. A Wrinkle in Time like just did it for me. It's like that was it.
I really love that. On the opposite side of that, now as an adult, what are your favorite series or authors?
It's really hard for me to sort of call out names because I'm usually in love with whatever I've read last, and I don't necessarily sort of keep lists of them in my head. I mean, there are um see, there I go, like for forgetting them, like just automatically forgetting them. I feel like if I could be staring at my bookshelf, I could tell you. But I do read a lot of contemporary authors, definitely black and white. I try and read international literature, stuff from Southeast Asia and other countries. And I also mix it up by returning to classics. I love classic fiction like Edith Wharton, for example. I mean, she just was an amazing writer. So I'm always toggling back and forth between the then and now.
Amazing. What would you tell someone just starting out with reading again?
What do you mean by by reading again?
They haven't read in a long time and they just want to they're thinking about starting to read again.
Yes, and I have been through those bouts myself for various reasons. And during the pandemic, a lot of people found they couldn't sit down and read. We were all just too unsettled, and so it's a real thing. I would say begin with something light, something fun. That doesn't necessarily mean funny, but not necessarily to start with like a really heavy, like don't start with War and Peace if you're like just jumping back into it. I would say to go for a book that's shorter and just contemporary that you can sort of breeze through because your mind is still kind of settling down to absorbing what's on the page. And, our attention spans have gotten so much shorter for all of us, including those of us who are writers and readers. So starting with something light and breezy is a good way to remind yourself of what it is to just read all those words on the page and kind of absorb it. I also find a couple pages at night before bed, just a couple from a book or a Kindle, for example, is a great way to just get that habit going again.
Amazing. On the other side of that, what would you tell someone who's just starting to write their own book?
Yes. I think there's a few things that's really important to keep in mind. Number one, focus on the story. Don't look ahead to, will I get published? Will I be able to sell this book? Will I be a bestseller? Will I be famous? Will I make money? You got to put all that out of your head. You've got to focus on telling the absolute best story in the best way that you can. So put all of your thought and energy into your characters and what they're going through and make that as real and true in your own way as you can, and don't let this other stuff distract you. That's one. Two is be absolutely committed to your belief in yourself and your passion in your desire to write. And a lot of us might be surrounded by friends and family who, and this happens all the time because people tell me, they're like, oh, what? You're writing a book? Are you like, why are you doing that? Or I'm really, I'm not sure you've got that in you. Or, oh, well, you'll have to let me see it when you're done because I'll probably be able to find everything, that you did wrong. I mean, people are getting a lot of negative things like, oh, you're wasting your time and you should be doing X instead. And you really have to, if it matters to you, you've got to shut that out, and find people and find writers who will be genuinely supportive of your writing journey.
That's amazing. What's one thing that people are generally surprised to find out about you?
I don't think I'm a very surprising person. Um, Probably that I'm 65 years old. People are usually surprised. Um, but age really is just a number.
So true, so true. Is there anything else you would like to say or add?
Well, of course, I know this isn't this lovely conversation we're having is not airing instantly, but I would let people know that here we are near the end of September, and my newest novel, Dreams of Songtimes, is a really heartfelt coming of age story about a human mermaid on the run who will take risks and discover a future she never imagined. It is for ages 15 and up. I think some adults will like it. And it's a real it's a counterweight to a lot of very negative stuff that's being said right now about the Little Mermaid and a new live action version that's coming out with Halle Bailey, a beautiful young Black actress and singer who's doing an amazing job based on the clip. And I would just say that this is a book that explores hate but really embraces love. And so I think that the timing of it is good, and I hope people will check it out.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Where's the best place for readers to find your book? I know some readers love signed copies. Is that an option? And the best place that they can connect with you?
Um, yeah, I don't like sign and mail copies, or I haven't gotten into that kind of thing. But hey, if somebody wants me they're going to buy my book and they want me to sign it, we'll make it work. My website is the one place to go for all my books with links on how to buy everything, and where you can join my newsletter and get emails and updates and giveaways and all that kind of thing. It's amywrites.live, AMYWRITES.live. And I think I've got something for almost everybody there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being on today. We really appreciate you. We'll be sure to drop that link in the show notes so that everyone will be able to find it. And thank you again.
Thank you, Courtney. I really appreciated your questions.